There's only one reason why your conversations get boring. And here's a perfect metaphor to illustrate that. Imagine you're dating someone new, and every time you guys go out, it's always to the same spot. Same table, same drink, same environment. It just becomes too predictable. You already know what's coming. There's no curiosity involved. There's nothing novel that's going to stimulate you. But one day, your date comes up to you and says, "This time, I'm gonna take you to a place that you've never been to." And you go, "Oh, really? What is that?" And your date goes, "I won't tell you. You'll have to come with me and discover it." This one single sentence completely changed the vibe of the whole interaction. It went from very boring to suddenly interesting. And the reason for that is because a predictable pattern was broken. The reason why your conversations get boring is not because you're not interesting, not because you don't have anything interesting to say, or you're not doing interesting things in your life. It's because you are too predictable in your conversations. So in today's video, I'm going to, in the first part, talk about what the typical conversation looks like and why it's boring. And in the second part, we're gonna break down every single pattern that makes this conversation boring so you can recognize them and stop having boring conversations. But before we begin, let me introduce myself real quick. Hi, this is Already Enough Coaching and I'm your coach, Netter. I'm an ex-awkward person and I've been struggling with shyness and social anxiety my whole life. I've taken the last 7 years of my life to completely dedicate myself to my self-improvement, my social skills improvement, and to changing myself from the inside out, so that I can confidently express myself with anybody I meet. And today, I help other people develop real social confidence so that they can meet the people they want to meet, create the social life that they dream of having, and start really participating in life. Enough about me, let's get to the first part of this video. So what does the typical conversation look like? It's probably something around these lines. "Hey, John, how are you doing, John?" "Oh, Jamie, I'm doing great. How are you?" "Yeah, I'm amazing. How was your weekend?" "Oh, it was good. We just spent like a little time with the kids. How are you?" "Oh, yeah, I mean, it was kind of chill, boring weekend. I just stayed home and that's it." "Okay. Anyway, Jamie, it was nice meeting you. I have to go to work. Have a great day, bye." So at first sight, this just looks like normal boring small talk. But actually that single conversation is packed with every single lesson you need to learn in order to stop having boring conversations. So the first mistake that both these guys make here is that they get into what we call social scripts. And social scripts are the usual conversations, topics, and questions that get asked in the typical boring small talk. You know those conversations that you have 10,000 times with all of your coworkers, that they themselves have had 10,000s of times, if not hundreds of thousands of times over their lifetime, and they just get accustomed to them. But the problem is when you repeat something that's familiar, you get familiar responses. So in the years that they've been having those social scripts, they basically kind of developed their own, what we call autoresponders, or their own template answers to these questions, and now you force them to talk to you in autopilot mode.
All right, now everybody, get in crash position.
So what happens in Jamie's mind when John starts a conversation with a typical boring social script is exactly this. "Oh, John started the conversation with this question that I've heard 10,000 times. I already have answered to this question before, and I'm going to give him the exact same answer I always give." And the second thing that Jamie's brain recognizes is, "Oh, this is just typical small talk. So I'm gonna go into typical small talk mode." What John's done now is put Jamie in a position where he's forced to go in autopilot mode and answer to him like he's answered absolutely everybody. There's nothing novel, there's no curiosity involved. He's not taking him to a new place to discover that is maybe a bit more unknown and exciting. And that's what you have to do with your conversations if you want to stop being boring. Break off the usual social scripts. So the second mistake that you hear in this conversation is both of them are being way too polite. And look, I don't mean by that be a social retard. Don't start being rude to people and disrespecting them, or not being a bit socially aware and understanding the context of the conversation, right? Those things are important. But with people that are a bit shy or putting up a front, most of the time, they're filtering themselves way too much because they believe that being polite means making a good first impression. Being polite doesn't make a good first impression. Showing your personality does. So it's not politeness, it's personality. And this is a major distinction. Because you're afraid of challenging people, stating your opinions, acting spontaneous, or brushing them off the wrong way, what happens is you start to play extremely safe. And safe is not interesting. Imagine if you're going through a whole thriller movie and the whole time nothing happens. There's no killer. The main character just stays at home, they read a book for 1 hour and 30 minutes, and the movie ends. Basically, when you're being too polite, you're taking people in your discussion through a very boring thriller. So what you want to be doing is break that cycle by showcasing more of your personality. And the truth you have to face with that is that your conversations might start to become a bit more uncomfortable. Not only because you're showing more of yourself, but because you do risk to brush people off the wrong way. You have your own opinions and they might oppose their opinions. You have your own perceptions of things. You have different passions, interests. Then they might clash with the other person's interests, objectives, goals, values, ways of communicating, and that's totally okay. In order to stop being boring, you have to be able to stand out. And the only way that you can really stand out is by stop being so polite and being more authentic. And that leads directly to the third mistake, which is they are being fake. When you're being fake, you're performing, you're putting on what we call a social mask. The reason for that is because you're afraid of being judged for who you are. So you would rather put on a social mask or a performance so that if you receive criticism, it's not your actual self that receives it, it's your mask. So you don't ever feel like if some bad outcome happens, that it is a personal attack to yourself. It's an attack against the mask that you put out. And you don't care. You'd be like, oh, anyways, that conversation was awkward and I wasn't even interested in it. I was just trying to be nice to them. Well, being nice is not gonna help you either. Being fake is not gonna help you have deeper relationships. What happens when you're fake is you put on a social mask, your body language, your tone of voice, your verbal communication all change to become extremely filtered. The more filtered you are, the less you allow yourself to express yourself fully, and the more the other person can feel how filtered you are, the more they feel like they themselves cannot share themselves with you. And it's funny because your own fear of judgment gets projected onto others, and because you are afraid of their judgment, they feel like you will judge them too. So being fake, being polite, trying to play it safe, and putting on a character will crush your conversations. That is one of the biggest sticking points you will have that will make absolutely all of your conversations boring and forgettable. The fourth point is the energy through the conversation is flat. And let me give you an example to illustrate that. Imagine you're talking to somebody about what you did in the grocery store recently, right? So you could communicate it this way, with this tone of voice. Oh, hey, yeah, I went to the grocery store today and I picked up some tomatoes and I then just put them on the roller to get them paid at the cashier. Like, dude, are you even following what I'm saying anymore? I disengaged from the first second of this conversation. The moment I heard the frequency of the person's voice, I immediately disengaged. I knew it was gonna be boring. if you want to engage people, you have to walk them through an emotional journey. That's why tone of voice is so important. And it doesn't matter what you say, as long as you say it in an interesting way, it will sound interesting. And just to prove you that, I'll take the exact same grocery store example with the exact same wording, and I'll just change the tone of voice. And here's what it sounds like. Today, I went to the grocery store and I got 3 tomatoes. And then I put them on the roller and I paid at the cashier. So I know this is a very outrageous example. Of course, when you're talking about grocery shopping, you're not gonna be that excited and animated. But what I'm showing you is that from one version to the other, nothing changed except the tone of voice. So tone of voice can walk somebody through a completely different emotional journey. As you go through the journey yourself, they feel the exact same things that you felt at that time, like they're living that experience right now. And that's what makes it interesting. You actually have an impact on their emotions and you become emotionally relevant. So you have to stop sounding flat and work on your tone of voice. And the last point, the 5th point, is these 2 people stopped collecting interested experiences. We say in self-improvement, as within, so without. And the reason for that is because everything that is happening inside is reflected outside. If you are boring in your conversations, it's probably not just because like you feel like you're a boring person, but also because you are stuck in a routine. You go to the same job, take the same coffee, wake up at the same hour, go back home, eat the same food, watch the same movie, go back to sleep at the same time, and you repeat that again and again and again and again. And so you stop not only collecting a beautifully interesting energy about yourself and about your life, but you also stopped collecting material for your conversations. And that's very important. And it doesn't take much. You don't need to start bungee jumping, skydiving, or traveling the world to be interesting. All you need to do is to do one thing that breaks your routine. And then to express that experience with enthusiasm, taking the person through the whole emotional journey of what that experience was like. Next time somebody asks you, oh, what did you do this weekend? You don't say, oh yeah, I just stayed home and did nothing. You say, I went to a meditation retreat. And they're gonna go, really? How was it? Now you got them curious, you got them engaged and open to hearing you out. You broke them off the typical social script. And then you can walk them through the whole emotional journey of how that meditation retreat was for you. And of course, I say meditation retreat, but it can be as simple as a yoga class, going to the gym for the first time, trying guitar out, learning Chinese or any other language for that matter. But the key here is you have to have a commitment to yourself to start making your life a bit more passionate. Try new things that you wanted to try but have never tried before. Take a bit more risk. Start going towards the things that you love, or if you don't know what you love, then start discovering them. And that will 100% break the boring conversation pattern. That's it for today, guys. I hope that you really liked this video. This is the first video of a 4-part series, so stay tuned for more by subscribing and clicking on the notification bell if you don't want to miss the rest. They're all complementary. Today, we went over how not to be boring, and the next time we're gonna go over how do you master the first few seconds of a conversation. What is one thing that you can say to open interesting conversations absolutely anytime, anywhere, with anybody. So stay tuned for more, and if you want to have personalized help, you'd like to take on one-on-one coaching with me, you can click in the link in the description below to get your free 30-minute coaching call. And we're gonna go over your story, your sticking points, putting together an action plan that can get you the results you want, as fast as possible. Whether that means just being able to talk to new people, feeling more socially free, overcoming your shyness, or creating a group of really close friends. Whatever it is, we'll work together to make it a reality. This was Netter. I love you all and hope to see you soon. Over.